Hello, everybody, and that was a massive delay in the intro. I hope that comes out okay on YouTube. But hello, YouTube, how are you? And how is my lovely co-host Ember? How are you, darling? How are you doing?
It's been a rough while here in the U.S., but
Yeah.
I got to see
Did
my
you?
son today, which is always fantastic.
Awesome. Did
Yeah.
you go to the protests, the hands
No,
off?
no,
No,
I
that's okay.
I
Yeah.
made food for my son. I
Oh
was like,
no, that
the protest, but yeah,
that's fair.
priorities.
Yep, absolutely. That's fair. But like it's great to see the protests amping up and gathering steam, and there were thousands of people out, which is fantastic. Really, really awesome. Yeah, it's good to see the momentum gathering. Um, just first off, I was talking to Ember about this, but we're doing the Surrounded series, and apparently somebody got their channel taken down, not taken down, but their stream interrupted because of copyright issues. Now, this sort of goes against every sort of fair use law that exists, but we'll have to see how we go. And there's not much we can do about it. I also do have to apologize. This wasn't last week. According to my wife, there was a lightning strike. The power was completely out when I got up in the morning. It was just gone. So apparently it was lightning strike on a substation or something, and we lost power for that time, which was surprising. So apparently God themselves does not want this stream to happen. You heard it here first.
You were smoted or
I
smitten.
was apparently so. Like, yeah, usually we're usually fine around here. I must admit though, like it was back up and running in like what was it, a couple of hours or something. So I was kind of like, that's not bad considering, like
Mhm.
it's a pretty good response time, so I can't complain. I really can't complain. And so yeah, I think I'm very tired today, so I apologize if I'm flagging and falling asleep at the mic. I don't think I will. I think this is interesting enough to keep me awake. But I was talking to Smitten. Yeah, I was smitten. I was absolutely smitten because I was talking to the Apostate Sisters last night, which was fantastic. I'm big fans of theirs. They're doing absolutely wonderful work. So yeah, big fan. And they're doing fantastic. But I will line up the video. Do you have anything to go through? Do you have anything coming up, Ems, that you want to go through before we get started?
Um,
Any announcements?
I know there's things. I'm bad at things, but there's
Yeah, I'm bad at
things.
things too.
If all else fails, I already have the good news for next week on transpositions already recorded. Hopefully my interview people okay my edits because it's an interview show and it's
Right.
super awesome. But yeah, there's that. Everything else,
Okay.
I don't know. I'm all flustered today.
That's okay. That's all right. Look, there's always that one bit of news that dominates your sort of mind. I get you.
Yeah, it's not a for YouTube thing though, which is one
Yeah.
of the reasons that I'm so distracticated and whatnot is
Mm-hmm.
real life things. It's taking up all the space in my brain.
Distracticated.
Yeah,
Is that
it
a
is now.
It is now. Yeah, no, I was about to say it is now. I love that. I love that word, distrasticated. Okay, that's when you're so distracted you can't even English anymore. Like
hmm
it's just,
hmm
I
We're
love it.
we're breaking new ground here, folks.
Nice, you heard it first. Like Maya says, and hello, Maya. Jubilee is worse than History Channel. I don't know. That's a bold statement. Okay, they do some pretty bad stuff, but at least they didn't do like a History Channel, they did Vikings, which was like just a fiction on a history. I don't know about that one. I think History Channel is pretty bad.
I
But
don't know. A doctor versus 20 anti-vaxxers as if they're equally I don't know.
yeah, I was so disappointed with that as well. Like it seemed like they were just throwing out stuff, and that was a
Dr. Mike.
Dr. Mike, yes. And he didn't really have a chance to explain or understand kind of thing. It was very, very sort of they would just throw out all of these claims. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that would be good, and it was a little disappointing how little time Dr. Mike had to actually address everything. But this one is Alex O'Connor, who I think is amazing, just brilliant. Love Alex O'Connor. And he is up against 20 Christians, which to me, it feels like you're sending in, just average people against Mike Tyson at that point. He's just whacking each of them as they really there's no contest. And before you sort of say, oh, well, it's always like that, it's not always like that.
No, it's not.
Who'd they have on that was absolutely like he was rickrolled? It was a right-wing guy from, oh, God, I've blanked on his name.
Charlie Kirk? Michael Knowles?
Michael Knowles, yeah. Knowles was on there, and he got absolutely decimated by the average people there. He was
now I want to watch that one. I ignored it because Michael Knowles is like the king of schmucks, but whatever.
Well, at least I can appreciate it was evident when the king of schmucks was on there, as opposed to their best equal when it comes to channel. Oh, you were talking about channel striking. Don't put words in my mouth when it comes to anything else. Look, Maya, I don't. That's fine. Like, I didn't get you. You were talking about channel striking. Gotcha.
Not quality of the content.
Not quality. No. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. All I had was this. All I had to work with was that. Look. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I reserve the right to put whatever in whoever's mouth I choose. Thank you very much.
Hey, now.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, I know. I've been talking to the apostate sisters. They're so cheeky. I'm terrible person. I'm sorry, Maya. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth. I get you. No, I get you. Okay, so I've got this up. And it's surrounded, and it's kind of, and I'll talk about this. It's a weird premise and a weird thing, but this isn't because I like the surrounded format. It's just because I like Alex O'Connor, really. And I'd like to talk about what he says because he's awesome.
My first claim is that suffering makes God's existence unlikely.
So this is what they do. They have these claims kind of thing that they'll make a series of claims, and then it's a weird format because people have to, whoever touches the chair first gets to talk. Oh, you're actually counting them up.
Yep. 23 people in one empty chair in the ring. I think it was supposed to be 25, but they never seem to quite have the 25. It's always like 21 or something.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd hate to be the organizer of this because I struggle to organize one-on-one debates, much less, 20 people kind of thing. Behind the scenes, it must be a nightmare trying to get those people together.
No.
One person cancels. No,
because most of these people, first of all, if one person cancels, it really doesn't matter. They're all TikTokers, Instagram influencers, that sort of thing. Which makes them A, easy to contact, B, desperate for any attention they can get. They go out of their way to make it to the show. So you don't have to go through a talent agent like you do for your main guest. And because of all that and the location in LA, if one drops out, you can get another one in 10 minutes.
Wait, should YouTubers have talent agents? This is new to me. Really?
Usually it's the people who have talent agents that also have a YouTube channel that end up with millions of subscribers, but not always. I don't believe Dr. Mike has an agent, but I don't know. Maybe he does by now.
I have no idea. It's weird. Talent agents. Okay. But yeah, I mean, they probably invite, 20 something people, and then, if it's above 20, they say it's 20. But I've got a funny feeling you're right, that they'll just round it off to make it sound good, right? Like, so if it's 22 people, they'll go, oh, it's versus 20 people.
Yeah, well, the first one or two, they had trouble because they billed it as 1 versus 25, but there were actually 22 people. Right. And when the moderator said it, the title said 25, but on the video they said 20. And so they're just like, you know what, let's just call it 20 all the time. Yeah. If there's bonus people, great.
Great, yeah. Yeah, so and this is the thing, that they make these claims, and then it's really weird. They have to rush the chair kind of thing. It just seems like, there's some sort of evolutionary race here for the debaters, that they have to rush the chair, which is so weird. Like, it seems like you've got an upper hand on this if you're a good sprinter or something. I don't know. It's
or
just
if you're
weird.
near the chair.
Right.
The people who are behind Alex just are never going to get to speak.
Right. I mean, the guy on the left is just relaxed. He doesn't care because he knows he's never going to get there. I just, I don't know. It's just a really weird format kind of thing. It's very strange.
In a weird abandoned warehouse, too.
Yep. See what I mean? It's like a Dickensian freaking, it's weird.
This is actually an improvement, too. In the first couple, it was whoever sat in the chair first. And there was some interesting wrestling. So they made it whoever touches the chair first.
Oh, dear. Wow. So the format I hate. I hate the format, and maybe, we're hate watching this. All right. Guilty as charged. But I hate the format of rushing this chair. Because, you'd hopefully have whoever has the best arguments or give everybody a voice. It's like, no, if you're slow on your feet, you don't get an opportunity to speak. No, tough. You should be faster.
That's right.
Be born a faster sprinter.
Speed improves the quality of your arguments.
Oh, absolutely. We all know that. We all know that. That's exactly what the Gish Gallop proves. Let's face it. It's just, this is giving Gish Gallop a whole new name, isn't it? You actually have to. Anyway, that's a stupid pun. And sort of without civilization, I can't remember who it was, but somebody sort of said, life without civilization is nasty, short, and brutish. And I think they're absolutely right. Like, without even just a tribe or some sort of community, the life of the solitary animals is very, very just very brutal. It's very, very, survival, constant fear, just really fraught with danger and unsettlement. I think we've kind of forgotten, or just, our control over our environment has lured us into this idea that, hey, we're totally fine,
Yeah, the illusion of safety. I was reflecting on that the other day. I had to take my lunch break, and so I found a place to park the truck. And at this truck stop, there was a crow. It made me think of Tsunami for a moment as well. There was a crow who had a clearly broken wing, could not fly, but otherwise healthy, just hopping around looking for like food scraps and whatnot because it's a truck stop. And I'm like, that bird is benefiting from the existence of human civilization, because without this truck stop to provide food, that bird would have become food ages ago. Now, it's true humans also contribute to the spread of domestic cats, which are the number one killer of birds.
Right.
But so far, this bird has been lucky enough to have a broken wing in a place distant enough from where there might normally be feral cats and other predators, but there's also abundant enough food. I mean, it's truck stop leftovers, but still, he's not going to starve.
But that's probably better than the food that they find in the wild anyway. Usually they're going for bugs and, other insects kind of thing. So it's probably more calorie dense than the food that,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we've completely changed that. That's
one
really
French fry and you
though.
gain 10 pounds. Holy shit.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting observation, Ember. And it seems to be, as humans have come along and sort of dominated on a multicellular level, because we really have, it's the animals that can adapt to us as sort of a force of nature that seem to be doing better, like, rodents and rats and things like that,
for
as
sure.
opposed to, dodos and white rhinos and
white elephants too. that's
elephants
a separate,
too. Yeah,
that's a separate thing.
Look,
yeah,
I already said I'm
species,
tired. Okay, don't.
It's fair. It's fair. But
they're
there's
both packaged.
There's a species of bird, I think it's a variety of finch, that has adapted to truck stops around the central and southern United States. They eat the bugs off of the grills of trucks. That's their exclusive food source at this point.
Right.
They probably could adapt back if all trucks went out of existence because it's only been, 100 years ish.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's all they eat is truck bugs.
Wow, that's incredible. Truck bugs. Okay,
It's
I didn't
easy.
know they're, like, are we gonna start finding in like Wikipedia and stuff diet truck bugs? Like that's wow. Not carnivorous plants or something. It's just truck bugs. Yeah. No, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
It's going to be the new keto diet next year or
Right,
something.
right.
I don't know. Truck bugs. Chocolate covered truck bugs.
Well, it's interesting that we have these sort of animals that we've adapted to as the domesticated animals, and then we have the animals that have adapted to us without our consent or wishes, kind of thing, like raccoons, for instance. Like they're in the trash, rummaging around, and we're not domesticating them; they just come along for the ride.
Yeah,
But,
the unintended consequences of us doing the things we do. It's sometimes it's scary, but sometimes it's pretty fucking neat.
Kip Davis says, "Be careful, Jubilee took down our stream 2 months ago and tried to view that video." Yeah, I only found that out last night when I was talking to the Apostate Sisters, Kip, but thank you. Look, we'll do what we do. If they want to do that, there's not much we can do about it. But yeah, thanks for the heads up. If we cut out, you'll know why, because we're dirty people that don't use fair use. Look, all of this should be under fair use. It needs to have a discussion. Any idea presented to the population writ large really should have the ability for ordinary people to come together and discuss the ideas being presented. I am a big believer in fair use. I don't think I've ever even had an inclination to copyright anything. I love people reviewing my stuff. I think it's fantastic. I think it's awesome. People should review my stuff and say, hey, he's wrong about this. I had somebody review one of my debates and they said, oh, I think that he missed this and missed that. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. But then again, I'm not a corporation making money, so, who knows? I don't even know who Jubilee is. I don't much care. But I do apologize if it does get taken down. It certainly wasn't my intention, and it's certainly not my intention to steal content, because really people come here to listen to our silly thoughts on things, not the actual content itself.
People come for the tangents.
Well, I don't know. I think people come for the hats. They stay for the tangents. Ember. That's what happens.
I'm skeptical.
Yeah, the one stream we had that got interrupted was a Jubilee stream. Interesting. Okay, so Jubilee is just, the new Disney for,
Or BBC. Man, BBC is right on their shit. If you have 30 seconds of BBC footage, as soon as you hit second 29, you get a warning in your stream control room. And they'll just, while it's like, holy shit, they are on top of it. It's like they have an army of bots. Yeah.
Really?
Wow. I think, yeah, and they're like, even if you mute it, they're like, the footage matches, our bots can tell. Holy crap.
Wow. Well, hopefully, I've sped it up 1.25. I'm not sure if that makes any difference whatsoever, but I might get up the control room and just sort of, how do I
try it from YouTube Studio, click on content and then live, and then the current video that's live, you'll see like a dot with radio transmissions around it, and if you in the options, that opens the live control room. Yeah.
Oh, I'm such a professional when it comes to YouTube.
It's all good. I forget sometimes too, and I'm the one who lectures everybody about keeping it open so you can see copyright warnings before the stream goes down.
Where do they come up in the thing? What's it?
In the main panel with the stream health and like the viewer numbers and whatnot, at the very top there'll be a warning saying that you're in danger of violating a rule or some shit. You can
Oh,
also
no.
hit a button to make ads pop up. If you want to like override, it'll automatically insert ads after a certain period of time, depending on viewership. I don't know the formula, but there's a little $ button up at the very top, and if
Oh.
you hit it every half hour or so, then it'll override the automatic ads, so they only pop up
Oh.
when you want them to. So if you plan
Oh.
for breaks and put them in on purpose, it can help the stream flow, but I
had
mean,
no idea. Okay.
yeah,
That's good to know.
I'm bad at that too.
That's good to know. Because I don't know. I just don't like the idea of automated ads. I just don't like the idea. It's just sort of, you know, I don't know why. I don't know why. Hey, AG. I don't know. I mean, suffering to me is a bit more extreme than anything you don't want to happen. You know, that like I think that suffering is a combination of, you know, physical and psychological trauma or pain. You know, something inflicted upon you. I think that suffering is very, you know, just not a preference. Like, oh, I don't want this to happen. It really is that infliction of you know, I guess psychological pain, because, you know, physical, you can be hurt and just, you know, get over it. But I don't know. It's weird that he goes to an ontology of evil.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, you could get into that from a biblical perspective. Evil is definitely a
Right.
term that's laid out in the Bible, although it doesn't seem to have a very constant definition, shifting
Right,
from
right.
book to book or what have you. But yeah, it's an easier position for Alex to defend, so he can stay on topic to go with suffering. But yeah, I don't care for that definition. I mean, suffering is. I could go with physical pain. I could go with psychological agony. But
yes,
I mean,
yep.
every living person who's more than a couple days old has experienced some degree of suffering.
Right,
This
right.
isn't a thing that really needs to be, you know,
Yeah.
divide those hairs, split them up real fine, you know?
And the whole premise of Christianity is after you die, you'll be in a place, you'll still exist, but there will be no suffering, right? Like, it will take that away from you, kind of thing, right? Like, it is absolutely a given under Christianity and their beliefs that you will exist absent that suffering. So they like I find that it's weird that he doesn't sort of understand what it means, because his entire religion is based around the alleviation of that suffering while still having an existence.
Yeah,
So it's
I
very,
mean, hell,
very strange.
Christ suffered on the cross. That's
Right.
the guilt trip. That's the sales pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when we're talking about evil, and I think he could make the argument just as well. It would take longer to play out. I grant you that, but he could make the argument that, hey, if it is intentionally done, suffering is evil, right? Like, so if you have intentionality behind it, that is what I would call evil. But obviously, that would take a lot more. So under a naturalistic paradigm like Alex is talking about, suffering isn't evil. It's not being inflicted intentionally to you know, harm somebody, but it is still but under Christianity it is done intentionally, right? It is done by a god to, you know, inflict upon people. So you would
Yeah.
have to say that is evil.
Yeah, it's a very important distinction, because a lot of times, even the ones who say, oh, it's sin and hand wave it away,
Right.
it's still part of God's plan. It's being done on purpose.
And if it's God's plan, it has to be good.
So
Because God's
evil
plan
is good, and
Right.
we have a logical contradiction.
Well, no, suffering is good. And that's how you end up with people like Mother Teresa, who thinks that suffering is holy, is a good thing, because God's plan includes suffering. So it has to be good, because, you know, and that's how you get these distorted views of the world, where it's like, well, you know, they're impoverished and dying of starvation, but that's holy because suffering is good. God meant it to be that way, which is wild. You know, we can alleviate that. And the follow-on comes, well, if it's good, why should we try and prevent suffering? If it's good, aren't we stopping good things from happening? And that's where you get the weird ass, you know, don't give these people help kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just quickly, Robin Webster, our resident sharpshooter and all-around wonderful person. Thank you so much, Robin. Gifted a red chip. Do you know what happened last night during the stream with Apostate Sisters? Do you know what Robin did?
Assassinated Pinworm.
Well, she hit Pinworm, and I told the Apostate Sisters, "Oh, Robin hits everybody she's trying for. Hits Pinworm, and then Pinworms was the next super chat. It was uncanny. It was almost, absolutely." But
do you remember that time? Oh shoot, I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I was doing a live stream, and Robin made a comment, and like there was I was like replaying the video later for some reason. And like, I can't remember exactly how it went down, but like somehow in the past, Robin answered the comment or the question or whatever it was that I was making in the present and got it into the video from months ago. And it was,
wow,
it was weird. I'm like, Robin's a sorceress.
I think so, actually. I really think so. Either that or she has bribed the YouTube algorithm. And that hit Maya Atkinson. Bam! Take that, Maya. How do you feel about that in your mouth? There you go. That's an inside joke, by the way. That we just joked about that. I don't think I'm hassling Maya at all. So thank you so much, Robin. Thank you. You're amazing, and we really appreciate you. Yeah, that does sound cool. Absolutely. I do like that they include all of the definitions. This sounds like, so Alex obviously has a degree in philosophy and he's never heard of this problem. So it sounds like one of the things that the apologists put out there that isn't really, very well known. A lot of precepts have these things. They have these arguments that no philosopher's ever heard of because when you break them down, they don't make a lot of logical sense. It just comes to begging the question or something. So an axiological expectation mishmash problem refers to a situation where there is a discrepancy between what someone expects to be good or valuable based upon their personal values or beliefs and what they actually observe in the world, leading to a sense of conflict or dissonance. Well, yeah, but that's essentially the problem for evil boiled down, isn't it? That's essentially like we would expect to see what someone expects to be good or valuable based upon their personal values or beliefs.
Yeah, Oxford Academic calls this the problem of evil for axiarchists, which is an axiological anarchist.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love it.
I think it's basically saying that, what you expect well-being, or you expect a lack of suffering to be valuable and good based upon your personal values or beliefs. But we're not doing that here. The problem is that we're basing it upon what Christians claim God is, not on what we personally find valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think he's trying to get to, we think that sort of a lack of suffering would be good, while God knows better, that the suffering has a purpose that makes it necessary or good.
Yeah.
But, the problem there is then you are going down the road of, William Lane Craig, all of the babies drowning in the genocide was a good thing. That was a good thing that happened. And that gets you to some really horrendous conclusions, like my Mother Teresa example, where you're saying suffering is holy because God has ordered it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I think that, and plus it's sort of, it doesn't overcome why a benevolent God who's all powerful, because you have to have the all powerful there, like the maximally powerful or the omnipotent, because to say that God has to have suffering, right? Like, yeah, there's a way for him to carry out his designs without suffering, because if he's not omnipotent or at least maximally powerful, then there may not be a way to carry out what he wants. without suffering, right? He needs to have the suffering in order to achieve the end goal. But in saying that, you're restricting God to, he's got to do this thing, which doesn't fit the Christian God at all.
Yeah, and I think you touched on earlier the key issue here, the way this axiological expectation mismatch problem, AEMP, AIMP, whatever, it doesn't matter.
I've never heard of it before.
Same. Because it keys in on the discrepancy between expectation based on personal values and observed reality, it's deliberately missing the point. Because as you started to say earlier, the problem of evil comes from an internal critique of what to expect based on what the Bible says should happen.
Right.
And this is attempting to substitute your personal beliefs. You think this is what should happen for what we're observing, the mismatch between what the Bible says should happen and what really happens. It's very much related to the creationist arguments, where they, instead of admitting that science has made predictions and then those predictions bore out, simply stating that the things that are evidenced are instead your presuppositions.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's substituting your perception for observable reality as a way to try to discount the entire argument.
But then you'd have to sort of say, well, any suffering that people are experiencing is just an illusion. Like they're not really suffering. They just don't like it. I'm not sure how you would pass that to because it kind of like, if suffering is a state of mind, right? Like it is a trauma inflicted upon, like a not in a supernatural way, but a psychic trauma, a pain of either physical pain or pain of experiencing traumatic events, for instance. To say that it's an illusion, it's like, well, yeah, pain is an illusion if you just consider it's neurons firing, but that doesn't make it any less suffering, right? It doesn't make it any less, just because it exists in the mind, doesn't make it any less traumatic and suffering. So I'm not sure how you would get around that. When presumably a God could just not make us care, that like the deer could just have a broken leg, feel no pain, and just accept its fate, without the horrendous agony and trauma associated with it. So I'm really confused as to how that sort of saying, well, technically it's an illusion. Well, technically it is. All pain is just your receptors firing, so I'm not 100% sure how that gets around the problem.
Well, I don't think they're approaching it that way. What they're doing is they're saying, you're coming at them with an internal critique. You're saying the book says this is what really happens. There's a mismatch. That's a contradiction. And they're saying, never mind the book. You're saying based on your beliefs, there's a mismatch based on what you expect and what really happens. They're substituting your observation and the book, the internal critique aspect, for your personal beliefs. So they're taking something objective in the internal critique, and they're substituting your subjective perception as a way to dismiss your argument.
Right. But it's not my subjective opinion. It's that, the book says that God is all benevolent and all powerful and, omniscient and all of these things.
And also that he creates evil, but detail.
Well, I mean, let's, ignore that one for a second. I mean, it depends on the translation you're using. I believe in one that creates suffering is the translation. Like it literally is talking about, suffering there. And it also doesn't address, and quite rightly so, Alex's animal thing. Like, I mean, it addresses why people suffer, like because it's a fallen world, etc., etc., etc. It doesn't address why animals suffer. Like, it doesn't address that at all. They just seem to be sort of victims of our mistakes, which is weird for, kind of thing. it's odd. It doesn't actually address the problem.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that drives me so fucking crazy about arguing with apologists, especially the discount apologists who have access to a Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy but haven't actually studied any of it. It's so because there's no underlying basis. Like this fellow, he's probably memorized a lot of arguments at the very surface level and figured out how they apply, but he doesn't understand them and how they interact or the logical sets that they rely on or any of the deeper nuance to facilitate a true cut. When you see somebody throwing out, terms that are 700 syllables long, it's literally just to show off. As was it Einstein or Feynman who said that if you really understand a concept, you can explain it in the way a 6-year-old can understand.
Simplest terms. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And this is the overcomplication that goes the other way. It's done to mask the fact that they don't actually understand. They're just trying to overshadow that with greater complexity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Kip brings up a good point. It's evil or calamity. It's not suffering. It's calamity. You're right. Calamity. So, and the weird thing is from an atheist point of view, all you need to do is drop the omnibenevolence. That's all you need to do. Just say, hey, God can be a complete cock and, be absolutely evil kind of thing. And that's sort of what Calvinists have done. They've just said, hey, well, God does evil things. Problem solved.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't even abrogate the religion,
that, though.
Yeah,
they can't drop it. The whole idea that God may be evil. I mean, it does lead to sort of more problems, like how can a perfect being be evil, kind of thing, because obviously that's a problem. But it's
perfectly
sort of this,
evil,
perfectly evil, even. It's a problem, like for them, but it's not as big a problem. Like why God can do evil things is not a bigger problem as, evil things happen, apparently according to what God wants. The problem of evil is bigger problem than an evil God.
Yeah, especially from an understanding standpoint, because like on the one hand, if you have a God who maybe he's evil, maybe he's only capable of doing evil, whatever the case may be, that leads people to ask, well, then why should I worship him? But if you insist on the maximally great business, then you have to deal with people saying, well, now you're trying to sell me an obvious contradiction. So I'm still not going to worship him. And I think you're trying to con me. So get out.
And I've got a super chat from the amazing Pinworm. Pinworm for $2 American. Thank you so much, Pinworm. You two are fabulous humans, and I'm here for it. Thank you so much, Pinworm. That is awesome. I try to be as fabulous as possible. I feel like I am certainly the second most fabulous person on this panel. Definitely. I do not have a fabulous hat, and it shows. It shows.
We
it really
can fix
does.
that.
We could. We absolutely could.
I know you have at least one fabulous hat around somewhere.
Really? Which one? The rainbow one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's hilarious. So I don't like hats, right? I just don't like hats. I've got a weird shaped head. They don't fit a lot of the time. I just don't like hat. I'm not a hat person, kind of thing. I just not. So that's really. I don't have anything against hats per se. I just not a hat person. But like some of the creationists, I wore that once on stream and they still like go, oh, well, you put on your rainbow hat. And it's like, really? You're still mad about that? I don't,
They think it's some kind of gotcha. I'm over here with like every fucking flag I can get on camera, and nobody cares because I'm open about it. But in your case, they feel like it's a gotcha.
Yeah, I've made no secret of my support of the LGBTQI community, and they're sort of like, "Oh, you wore a rainbow hat." Yeah. There we go. Screw you, people. I'm going to make the entire thing a rainbow flag. They're still mad that we took away their rainbow kind of thing. And it's like,
stole the rainbow from God. Proof that he's completely impotent.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that reminds me, I may have some readerships to give out before
You
I
might.
forget completely. No, that's not it. Where is it? Show your support. Oh, it's not in there. Hold it. Maybe I have to go to the stream itself. Maybe
You should be
maybe
able to
that's
do it
what's
from the
going on.
control room.
Oh, maybe I don't then. Maybe I don't have some over. I might have gone through them all. That
No, it's the
might be
start
some-
of the month.
No.
I mean, maybe you did. You have done a couple of shows already.
I
but
doubt it. Come on.
I don't.
now, you know
Maybe
me.
you do have to go to the actual stream. I don't.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Boom. Yeah, 5 readerships going out.
Pew,
And
pew.
is that you, Ralph? Anarchic Fox. Be rad. I love that name. Be rad. Yeah, definitely do be rad. Mark T. Atkinson. Team ONB Formula One dog racing. And that's Pinworm's a member already. No, that's not it. But Pinworm. I just wanted to say Pinworm. Thank you so much, Pinworm. And thanks for everyone reminding me in a very sort of circumspect way. But enjoy your emotes and other benefits, peeps. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is maybe one of those sort of things that apologists throw out that doesn't actually address the problem or is incredibly flawed. But the fact that, you know, Alex doesn't know about it, I can't say that it would probably be pretty mainstream, you know. I really can't. You gave out some readerships on April 1st or 2nd. You were very eager. Okay, I live vicariously through my audience. You got me, Jer. You got me.
I want
Like
to push this to you as a
Christianity.
version.
Right. So perfect lovingness. Like you may say, hey, would it be evil to make your children suffer? Like truly suffer? Well, yes. Yes, it would. Like, we're not talking about just sort of putting discipline on people. We're talking about sort of suffering for no apparent reason whatsoever.
Well, I don't necessarily know. Like, as a for example, the whole from a parent perspective, the go to your room without supper, and you just have to be hungry for the evening. It's low grade suffering, but it's still suffering, and you're doing it for a purpose. Ostensibly, it's discipline related, but it's still valid suffering.
But isn't that a good, if you're doing it for discipline reasons, isn't it a good thing that you're disciplining your child and sort of alleviating some other behavior that may be harmful?
Depends on your perspective. From the child's point of view, it's you had to go to bed without supper, and now you've got hunger pain and whatnot. That's not an objective good.
Well, but hold on, like, but the whole idea of Christianity and the God is that what he, like, so the, you know, you may think it's evil, but in essence you're wrong. If God's doing it for a purpose that, you know, has good in the long run, then you may think it's evil, but you're wrong. That's a good thing, right?
And that's why we come full circle to the problem being that it's a supposedly maximally great being. If it were a limited God, then you could argue there is a good goal that this suffering is serving, and this is the way to achieve it. But once you make that God all-powerful, he doesn't have to do it any particular way. So the only way he can do it through suffering is if he chooses to make the suffering be there.
Well, but sort of what I'm saying is that, like in your example of sending the child to room without supper, you know, and they see it as suffering. Mm-hmm. If I see it as suffering as a, you know, creation of God's or the child basically, and they see it as, well, it's a good thing because they'll learn to take responsibility or you know, it's in their best interest kind of thing to do this thing. So it is good that you are laying down that discipline. In like translated over to sort of the Christian view, it's just that the child's wrong and the parent's right. You know, like the parent knows what's best for the kid, so that suffering is in fact a good thing.
Yeah, and in both it doesn't hold up, because as an outside observer, you might say to the parent, isn't there another way you could have disciplined the child that wouldn't have caused that same suffering and would have yielded the same or better result? And of course there is. There's always alternatives that work better than causing pain to your child. But details. Analogizing that over to the God situation. Is there a way to achieve the ends you want without causing the suffering? If you're all powerful, of course there are.
Well, you would expect there to be, yeah. You know, and even with the like, just say it wasn't all powerful and there were some limitations on what they could do. Even if that was the case, you would expect that God would know that this is a good way to enact whatever they're doing. That the problem isn't the all powerful necessarily; it's the omnibenevolence. It is the all benevolent part. That this would be. It would look to us as though, you know, this horrendous suffering in the world is evil, but in actual reality, from an internal critique, it would be the optimal good way to achieve what God is trying to achieve, which by omnibenevolence has to be good. It has to be. There's no way it can't be if it's omnibenevolence, or at least maximally benevolent.
Yeah.
So there's a multitude of problems here that he's just
got to
not
give
going
up an omni. You gotta lose an omni.
It leads to this whole thing of William Lane Craig. You know, it leads to I'm just going to call it the Lane Craig problem. That you're saying, hey, this thing looks evil to you, but you're mistaken. Because God did it, it's good. That's what it leads to.
It does tend to lead in that direction if you're a Lobard Bill type thinker. But if you want to get, you know, slightly more into it than the very surface level, how can I make this sound incredibly complicated so people respect me and think I'm a real scholar type, then you kind of see how that creates an even bigger problem for your side, because it's saying that God could not accomplish his good end any other way. It has to be this way. Therefore, your God is not only not all powerful, not even maximally powerful, he has no power at all. He is completely powerless. He couldn't concoct the plan, but once the plane is running, he can't do a damn thing about anything.
Right. I get it. Like the whole idea that God creates this world and just lets it play out however, like, it's very strange to me. It's almost like a deistic kind of God. Like, I don't see that as really a Christian God so much.
Yeah, it's kind of like a kid playing, or an adult playing one of the Sims games. Like, you set up the world, you create the characters, and then you just press play and watch what happens.
Well, that's not The Sims. The Sims, you're directing them to do things, kind of.
You can, but you can leave them on autopilot.
I suppose so, yeah. Yeah, you can just leave it on automatic and let them do whatever.
Just every so often, you might harden a Pharaoh's heart here and there, but for the most part, it plays out on its own.
Well, I mean, aside from contradicting what he did in the Bible, you know, he had a lineage. And so the idea that that a God just creates things and then just lets it play out however, like, why the Jesus then? He obviously didn't let things play out in those stories, you know, like, because you can be a Christian and not believe in the flood. You can be a Christian and not believe it. But the whole thing about Jesus coming back to save us from our sins, I would imagine that's non-negotiable for a Christian. Am I wrong? Like, you know,
I mean, there's a lot of evolutionary offshoots of Christianity with some pretty interesting beliefs. I think the only actual requirement is that you believe you have to worship Jesus to get into heaven. Everything else is completely negotiable.
On the table. Well, it might be, but this is certainly not mainstream Christianity, where you think that, you know, God had, you know, a sandbox sim and just, you know, set it up and let it run and didn't know where it would go, had no idea, like, hands off.
Yeah, I mean, we see videos like that on YouTube. A person will set up Universe Sandbox or something and just press play,
Yeah.
and then just like let the game run for 5 billion years or so. They could intervene at any time.
Yeah.
They could, chuck an asteroid at Jupiter, whatever they wanted to do. They could do it, but they don't, to see what happens.
Right.
Maybe?
And so, well, I mean, that brings up the point of, is perfect, like he's talking about perfect lovingness. Would a God with perfect lovingness just allow, if you saw the disaster that your creation is sort of going through, all of this suffering, would you step in or not? Which would be the benevolent thing to do? I'm sure stepping in would be the way to go there. But I think he's trying to say, hey, your idea of perfect lovingness is stepping in and stopping suffering. But that's not perfect lovingness to God. Is that what he's saying?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I think
Yeah.
ultimately it depends on goals, Like I could envision a scenario, like to put it in a mini model to ease of understanding, like
Okay.
a fireman has the ability to put out the fire, but instead of putting out the fire, he goes in and rescues the kids who are stuck on the third floor and brings them out. He could have put out the fire, but it might have cost him the time he needed to save the kids. He'd rather make sure the kids are saved, even though it results in the consequence of the suffering of the family now being homeless because the house burned down.
But there's
So
a problem there with the omnipotence, like being able to do anything. There's a problem there.
Well, yeah, the omnipotence just borks every argument.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Bloody omnipotence. Terrible.
That's why us mortals don't fuck around with that shit.
No, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot barge. Yeah, that is a good point. And so what we're talking about is that the suffering is something that is evil but temporal and leads to a greater good, i.e. you learn from it and stuff like that. And it goes into a bit of dialectics, right? So dialectics in psychology is sort of seeing the bright side of things like traumas, for instance. Like you can find a silver lining, if you will. That's a very crude way of putting it. But it's like, well, I went through this trauma, but I'm a stronger person for it. We really need to not confuse that with the trauma being a good thing, right? Like it's not a good thing what people go through. The fact that they can develop some sort of good out of it doesn't make the experience a good thing. It's still a terrible thing that's happened. So we've got to be careful about that. And that leads me on to him saying, well, if they struggled, but at the end of their life, they found worth and meaning in all of this struggle, then it was a good thing that it happened. So when we're evaluating good and evil or good and bad, or however you want to phrase it, we're really looking at whether the end result in total, when all eventualities are actually sort of calculated, whether it's a good thing or not. Because, we use the gym analogy. You can go to the gym, you suffer, it hurts, you're miserable, that kind of thing. Like,
feel the burn.
Right, exactly. Like, but at the end of the day, you get swole, you get buff, in total, the outcome is good. And so we label it a good thing. What he's saying is that, hey, in total, everything is good, but the individual things are bad. They're evil and horrible. But then you have to acknowledge that it is a good thing that happened. When all is added up and summed up, it is a good thing that people suffered because they have this experience at the end of it. You can't separate that.
I think it's even worse than that because, like, remember, this is the story of a book. And you're the author, right? It doesn't. You can still write a big crescendo ending where everybody's glad that they had lived and had the experiences they had,
right?
And not cause them to suffer early on. They could have good lives where they experience nothing but joy and bliss. You're the author. You can do that. And
Right.
it seems to me, anyway, that the people would definitely be glad they had the lives they did. They'd be grateful that they had blessed lives full of joy and wonder. You don't need to torture your characters to make them happy at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's face it, the whole point about suffering is apparently we had that because somebody sinned. You know, like Adam ate of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil kind of thing. Like it wasn't sort of a, well, they just had these events happen. This according to the book, it was kind of inflicted upon them. You know, they were cursed to, you know, struggle and sort of, you know, fall ill and things like that. So the idea that, oh, we have this suffering, mind you, they may not believe in the Garden of Eden story. That might be fair enough, but you know, at that point, you're going against what the Bible says, and what's the point anymore? Like what?
Yeah.
What,
as we often point out, if the Garden of Eden is you know just a metaphor, then there's no original sin, not real original sin. And if there isn't an original sin, then what do you need Jesus for?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a really good point.
We have to have a meta argument over what it is but I'm not going to address what you just said, Alex. I'm going to explain how what you're arguing isn't the same thing as what I'm arguing in response. You're there addressing Alex's argument. Respond to his argument. Don't try to substitute your own. Whatever. I'm going to let it go.
He's sort of saying the suffering is justifiable. Right, like, because Alex is sort of going to, well, it's unjustified suffering. There's no reason, there's no rhyme or reason for it, and you would expect that under a naturalistic world. Fair enough, right? Like, because the naturalistic world doesn't care. It is completely unsympathetic and uncaring about that suffering because it's just an unfeeling, unthinking system. Basically, it's just a biological system. He's sort of saying, well, it is justified as an internal critique. It is justified. And so Alex is sort of saying, well, how is it justified for some random animal, you know, gets birthed and killed because, you know, the predators prey on, you know, young creatures? Like what justification does that have? What purpose does it serve? And it seems like he's sort of saying, well, we don't know it doesn't serve a purpose. Like what?
You just gotta have faith.
I don't know. It's this weird thing. Well, if you don't know the purpose it serves, then how are you justified in saying that it has a purpose, or it is justified by a God trying to achieve something? Like how do you know that then? It's wild. It's just sort of this. Well, you know, everything's got a purpose. And it seems like it's almost a circular argument because, you know, if it didn't have a purpose, then God would be evil. And God's not evil, so it must have a purpose. You know what I mean? Like, it's really begging the question that it has to have a purpose because God can't, you know, be doing the bad thing. What if God is doing the bad thing?
Yeah, basically, you can't judge any particular moral outcome until you get all the way to the end of time and see that crescendo where all the characters are grateful for their suffering and whatnot.
Yeah.
Until that happens, you just have to have faith. But that hasn't actually happened.
Right.
And never will. But you just have to have faith, and the faith is justified by the God that you don't believe in because it doesn't match the experience of real reality.
Yeah.
And that leads to another problem. Why do you have to do these circular arguments? Why do you have to make excuses for God? Why can't he just demonstrate? Like, just appear on Mount Sinai again. Big fucking ball of fire. Not even Sinai. Any mountain. He could go to Kilauea, which is, like, erupting half the time anyway. Sure. Big poof of fire and be like, y'all, I'm here. And I'm doing what I do because it's necessary for the outcome I'm going for. Deal with it. You know, like,
well, I mean, and then the question would be, oh Lord, isn't there any other way to do this? Aren't you omnipotent? And that would be a conversation. And it sort of plays into, Christians get upset because they're like, we sort of say, well, even if a God did exist, I wouldn't necessarily worship them, right? And they get all upset, and they're like, well, why not? Why, you wouldn't do this? It's sort of like, well, it depends on the God. I would have some questions for them. Like, is this suffering-filled life the only way that you could make our experience on Earth? And if he said, hey, I don't care about you guys, screw you, that's not a God I would worship. Like, you would expect them to have excellent reasons for what they're doing. But if they have excellent reasons, then the suffering we experience is not bad. Just as the suffering you experience lifting weights is not bad.
I would be very immune. Slight tangent, brief tangent, I suppose. God did appear and said, "Listen, I don't."
Please.
Yeah, if God did appear and said, "I don't give a fuck about human suffering. Your whole planet, your whole history only exists so that in 1,000 years, one space traveler happens to land on the third moon of
right.
Delta Pavonis 6, so that they can interact with the alien species there to demonstrate there is life elsewhere in the universe. That's all you're for. They're my chosen people."
Right. That would actually be quite funny. Like, you could imagine if God said to the Christians, "Yeah, I never really cared about you people. It's this alien species that was my chosen people. What are you talking about?
You're set dressing for the Pavonians."
Right. When you find out you're the minor character in the story. I'm sorry, that would be funny, but probably for 2 seconds, as you realize that what's the freaking point?
Well, in a way, that's wonderful because it abrogates the entire theist argument and gives us freedom for the first time in our history. We're truly fucking free. The God does not give a shit what you do. So live your life based on purposes that have meaning to you and what makes you happy, what brings you joy, and what makes the world a better place by your values.
That's true. Yeah. Could we be conscious without pain? Yes. There's people that live and they don't have pain. The pain receptors don't work. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like...
yeah, they made a movie about it.
Yeah, and they have problems. They have to keep checking themselves in case they've suffered damage to their body that they don't feel. But is it possible to be conscious without pain? Absolutely. Congenital analgesia is the name for it. Like, they don't feel it at all. They can't feel pain from anything, including burns, cuts, or broken bones. They literally don't feel it.
It's similar to deafness or blindness. It's just one channel of sensory input just doesn't work in their case.
Yeah. So can something be conscious and not feel pain? Obviously, yes, because there are people who are conscious and don't feel pain. Yes.
Yeah. Can you be blind and conscious?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you have no sense of taste and be conscious? Yes, you can have a sense not work. You can have all your senses not. Fucking Helen Keller she was missing a few and she is still conscious.
Okay, so maybe I've got this backwards. He's asking if you can have pain without consciousness.
I guess that depends on where you put the line for what's consciousness. Like, are we talking sentience or sapience or just a general sense of awareness? Because we know from studies that fucking plants experience something we might classify as pain that they try to avoid when they suffer physical damage. So if you want to call that pain, they're about as far from what we might think of as consciousness as one can get, but that doesn't mean there isn't some kind of awareness that we don't understand.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. Like, I think that you may be able to have a pain response without consciousness, but you definitely, suffering would require consciousness. Like the actual traumatic suffering, you would need to be of a mind, have a mind and a consciousness and awareness of the, more awareness in order to experience that, I would say.
Yeah, because
So,
the experience part is key, right? Because, like,
right.
even if you took your consciousness out of your body and just had your subconscious run you on robot mode, you can get up, you can brush your teeth, you can eat breakfast, but you're not really experiencing your life.
Right.
Then you could feel pain, but you'd go through the rote responses of like, oh, I need to set this bone, and you just do it. And
Yes.
the pain signal is there, but you're not like experiencing suffering.
And I think that a lot of suffering comes with, I don't know, what do you think? It may have the implicit embedded mental state of being aware that it could be different, like being able to go, well, I want to overcome this, or something that, instead of your body just reacting, like if we're jabbed suddenly, we have a draw away kind of thing. Or if we're burnt, we actually draw our hand away. And interestingly enough, that signal to draw your hand away from being burnt actually comes from a nerve cluster in your lower back. Like, it doesn't actually come from your brain, which is wild to me, because it's like your body just reacts without you thinking about it. But I think suffering that we're talking about isn't just pain. So I think it's important not to confuse the two. But yeah, it's a good question. But I don't see that as particularly useful. Can you have pain without consciousness? Possibly, but we're conscious. Like, I don't, sort of saying, well, God needs to give pain because we're conscious.
Well, I think he's trying to build towards a counter argument that there is no such thing as animal suffering because they don't have consciousness the same way we do. They don't suffer. It's only humans who suffer definitionally. But of course, I don't think that holds up based on experience. We've all seen animals with like a wounded paw or something. There's more than just pain going on. There's an experience of suffering,
Right. That's interesting. If that's the argument he's making, that's a terrible argument. It's sort of like saying, well, animals don't have feelings or whatever. I don't know how you would justify that.
Yeah, it's very supremacist. It's a xenophobe. We used to see a similar thing. There's writings from United States history where, people would say how it's immoral the way some plantation owners keep their slaves, because they cause unnecessary suffering. And the responses from the apologists justifying slavery would be like, they're Africans. They're not real humans. They don't have fully developed brains.
Right.
Yeah, they don't experience suffering, just pain.
Wow. That's incredible. Like, you look back at that. Yeah, I understand why, because they were sort of very, very horrible like that. But that's wild. Like, looking back on it, that is wild.
Yes, there is no suffering. Is that right?
That's probably true, yeah.
So if atheism cannot account for consciousness, then it cannot account for suffering. Would you agree with that?
So I think what we're doing here is we're sort of slightly shifting the goalposts. If we don't want to grant the existence of the material world before we start talking about this, we can do an...
And I think it's slightly generous to say slightly there.
Very.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. It doesn't matter if I can account for consciousness. We both agree consciousness exists, and there is suffering, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and this sort of, it's almost like a very misaligned foundationalism. It's like, well, if you can't account for something, you can't talk about it. It's almost online, well, if you don't know where your pen was made, you can't use it. Well, it's there, right? Like, I don't have to account for it in order for us to talk about it. And let's face it, you're accounting for it is saying God without any evidence to demonstrate that it actually is the case that that's where it came from. I mean, I could say that it dropped out of a magical vortex. It's an answer. I have accounted for it. I don't have to demonstrate where it comes from, but we'll be honest and say, hey, I don't know which factory my pen was made in. And you're saying, well, I'm saying it was made in the Magic Factory, so therefore you can't account for it, and I win.
That's exactly it. If you can't tell me specifically in which factory this pen was made, on what day, at what time, by which worker, then my explanation of it fell out of the Magic Vortex automatically wins, because it's fully accounting for it.
Because it fully accounts for where it came from. See, that's what I mean. Why do this? Are you a father?
I'm going to ignore your question and substitute a sidetrack of my own. This man has been reading Greg Kokel. Never answer the question you're asked. Substitute your own and take the conversation in a completely different direction where you control what's happening.
Yeah. Is the father disciplining his child suffering? Yes. Is it a good thing? Yes. Yes. At the end of the day, a father disciplining their child to prevent them from being harmed is a good thing. Right? You're basically saying,
in general,
yeah. Well, I mean, it depends how they do it, of course. If a father is like really harming his child in order to teach them a lesson, that's a bad thing. But he can't say that it's a bad thing that the father is doing. He's going to sometimes the ends justify the means kind of thing. And I'm not, fully opposed to that. Sometimes, you've got to do things in order for the end goal, like the weightlifting weights example. But, then it's a good thing at the end of the day. This has been say that, disciplining your child in order to teach them a lesson is a good thing. You're about to get your stream shut down. Oh, yeah, okay.
Was there a warning?
Yeah, it came up. It was temporarily blocked. Oh, God. All right.
Oh, no. So I'm like, I'm not seeing it. Okay, yeah, apparently we're currently unavailable. I'll just have to... Usually it comes back on after 30, 60 seconds, something like that. But sometimes it terminates the stream entirely. It's weird that it doesn't show us anything.
Just wait a bit. Yeah. Oh, no, it came up on my thingamawhatsit. I just was talking and I didn't see it, which is crazy. It's just crazy.
There we are.
I think we're back up now. Yeah, I'll see how it goes. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's some way around it. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I really find exception to this. Like, it's not like we're just playing the stream for people. We're doing commentary and review. I think that is entirely
a considerable amount of it. In fact, we're almost an hour 40 in, and only 12 minutes of video have played. It's
correct. Yeah. The whole idea. Like, I'm totally on board with streamers and content creators that just play the video in the background and laugh and say, yeah, right, occasionally. Like, I get that. I totally understand it, and I'm right on board with stopping people like that. But if you're talking about sitting here and analyzing and reviewing and sort of breaking things down, pointing out flaws, even in Alex's case, like I really think that's a stretch to say, it went off twice. At some point, the stream just comes down. All right. Well, I'm happy to go as long as I can. To be honest with you, will that be a black mark against my algorithm? Who knows? Who knows?
So you just want to see how far you can push it until it crashes it completely?
Sure. Why not?
Maybe science.
Take the video off screen when you're paused. Might be worth a go. My
father. I want my son to become just like I am, better than I am, I should say. I want him to become the best that he can be. Is it possible for him to reach his potential without suffering in his life?
Perhaps not, but there's
Okay, so suffering is necessary.
There are a few things I want to say
Okay.
here. Firstly, that kind of moral development doesn't apply to non-human animals, as I've already said. Right?
Okay, and hold it. And plus, like you're basically saying that, hey, is it a good thing if your son becomes a better person than you? If the answer is yes, then it is good that that your child experiences suffering.
Assuming that's unnecessary thing that you have to
Yes.
do in order for that good to be.
Yes.
Like, is there no other way? That's
Right.
another question. And if you're all powerful,
there must be.
Mhm.
But it's also the point of, well, if you say that suffering is necessary to achieve that good outcome, then the suffering is good because it achieves that outcome. Like, that's the thing. You can't separate the two. If you have to do that in order to produce the good outcome, then it is good that you do that.
Yeah, I've had that conversation with a few people over the years. Like, there's innumerable people here in the U.S. who are like, oh, well, my daddy used to beat me with a whip every night, and I turned out just fine. And I'm like, my guy, if you think beating children daily for whether they need it or not is fine, you did not turn out okay. I promise you.
Yeah.
But more to the point, like, you think it's justified because you believe you're a moral person. What you just said notwithstanding, let's just take it as a given that you are a more moral person than you would have been without those beatings. Maybe that's true. But is it possible that you could have been just as moral if disciplined in a different way? Or even more moral if, say, you were educated instead of abused, perhaps?
And let's not forget that is anecdotal evidence as well. You're basically saying, hey, this worked for me. But there's, you could definitely find evidence of a lot of people that were beaten that are now criminals, kind of thing, right? Like, that's the thing about those statements that, like, oh, well, I was beaten, I turned out okay. It's like, yeah, but there's a lot of people that are beaten that are now in the criminal justice system. You can't just take one thing and go, okay, well, it works for me.
Yeah, it's the seatbelt argument. I rode around without seatbelts and I survived. Yeah, but a lot of people didn't. That's why those are there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really shaky about this thing now.
That does not account for the brutal death of animals in the wild. Also, if I don't want to talk about your son because it's tragic to think about, but somebody else's son has suffered and died immediately as a result of that suffering, they don't get to develop in the same way.
I would agree that on a micro level, it's very hard to justify. And we can ask the question, why doesn't God intervene on all of these
you might be able to justify an amount of suffering, right? But the fact that there's so much gratuitous suffering in the world is...
Yeah, we've hit it again. The warnings come up again. This is going to be a problem. This is going to be a real problem. Jubilee, why you do this? Like, seriously, more people would watch if you actually just allowed people to critique and review your stuff. Like, seriously.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what their thing is. I don't think they care about the free promotion. But the thing of it is, some channels do, right? Like, I know there's been a couple of times Samantha Lux will, just as a for example, take a look at a Jubilee video, and she'll show specific clips rather than run through the whole thing, of course. But there isn't an issue. It's an uneven enforcement, I suppose you might say. It's kind of arbitrary. But I don't know, maybe, and for all I know, because they're pre-recorded videos, she uploads them, they get hit with copyright strikes, and then she writes in a response, and because she's a big enough channel, she gets an actual human instead of the default no from the bots, and they go, oh yeah, this is fair use, actually, and lift the flags, and then the video publishes. I don't know.
To be honest with you, I've run into that myself. I ran into that with the James Tour video kind of thing, like, which was definitely critique of his arguments, and he absolutely did a copyright claim on me, and eventually it went to like I said, basically it was fair use, did my usual thing, and it came back, no, it's not fair use. And so I challenged that, and then it went to, well, they've got X amount of days to start legal action against you. And it's like, yeah, show that it wasn't fair use. I dare you. I double dare
Make 'em.
you, because absolutely was fair use. You know, like the amount of like, it was like, you know, a 1 hour debate and it was like 6 hours worth of talk. Like, seriously, you cannot sit there and go, oh, well, that's not critique and commentary. Come on now. So yeah, it's wild. It's just wild. You know, the copyright system. I have some issues. I definitely have some issues. 100%.
Oh, for sure. And then there's multiple layers. Like Alex brings up music in the background of a public domain movie. People who've been around a while may recall for a little while I was trying to do live movie reviews, kind of like half this and half Mystery Science Theater 3000. I thought it would be fun. We played a public domain movie and the stream got taken down like 5 freaking minutes in.
Wow.
Even though it's public domain.
Yeah.
YouTube is wonky at best. That's a big part of the reason that so many streamers stream on, like, say, Twitch, for example, and then take the stream and re-upload that as a regular video on YouTube, editing out the bits that YouTube doesn't like.
Oh, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. And, you know, I did not think that this would be so problematic. So I apologize. I dismissed the warning, and another warning's come up since we've been sitting here talking.
Well, I mean, in fairness, I'm a fair use violation because obviously I'm a copy of a character from the Bible or some. I don't fucking know. The Book of Mormon. That's it. We're both like too white and delightsome or something.
Yeah, maybe they think I'm stealing Lex Luthor from DC or something. I don't know. It's sure. Why not? Where's my thing? Where's my stream health? My stream is sick. Help me.
We need a stream doctor.
The stream doctor. Oh, it was funny. Someone challenged me to a debate, and it was so funny. They said they were a metaphysician, and I had to laugh. Like, I really had to laugh. Like, they're a doctor for metaphysics. It's a metaphysicist, by the way. You're unaware. It's not a but that was hilarious. I got a good chuckle out of that one. But yeah.
I've heard a joke like that a few times. There's a big old pagan festival near where I live every autumnal equinox usually, and like every single vendor there has one of those degrees from the online spirituality centers. They all have a master's in metaphysics or something. And they're like, yeah, I can heal you because I'm a metaphysician. I'll use spiritual energy. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's not how any of that works.
No, it really doesn't. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean. Well, maybe if I email them and say, hey, I do reviews occasionally, I want to do Jubilee reviews kind of thing, can I be put on your whitelist? Maybe that's the way to go, like just sort of act professional and stuff. But you know what, I'll keep going as much as I can. I'm here for it. Fuck it.
For science.
What I think makes God's existence unlikely. There are some instances where maybe a certain amount of suffering brings about a certain amount of good in a situation. That, by the way, would count as a justification. But when a child dies of leukemia, and they're dead,
could there be a purpose to it? What if the death of the child brings their parents to God?
Then perhaps then the parents should be grateful that their child got leukemia because it's doing.
Yes, that's exactly my point. If that is a good thing that it brought their parents to God, and that's the justification for it, then that's a good thing, right? You can't get away from this. You can't say, hey, there's a necessary justification that makes the suffering worth it, and then say, but it's bad. How is that even possible? Yeah, no, I totally agree with him here. When someone says, I want to pull back a bit, it's like, watch for the goalpost shift. You know, like watch for the...
I want to pull my goals back.
Goal to... Right. I want to move these goals a little, you know, like... Yeah. That's not always the case. I want to make it clear. It's just, I've seen that happen a lot. You know, or I want to go to something, you know, sort of associated with it. It's just like, okay, here we go. And it's not always the case. They sometimes do have, you know, stuff to offer, or they do want to take a more broad perspective. But a lot of the time, suspiciously a lot of the time, it's you know, But what if this instead? Yeah, you're really moving the goalpost there, mate.
Yeah, if I can find any justification for this thing, it doesn't bet like if I, it's like it is such a huge titanic goalpost shift, because it's like saying, okay, an optimist or even, you know, anybody who's not a cynic might say every dark cloud has a silver lining. I'm going to presuppose every single cloud has a silver lining, whether you can see it or not.
Ember, the stream suspended.
Damn it.
Yeah, I know. It was a really good point. I was thinking about letting you finish, kind of thing. It wasn't even on the screen. We're not even playing it anymore.
Oh shit.
Oh dear.
We are ourselves a violation.
Okay, well I'll wait, and then I'm gonna have to wrap it up, because this is not.
Oh boy. I know, this is no way to run a tea party.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I gotta say, Hattie did warn me about this one, but you know, at that point it was last night, so it was a bit late to change, but definitely did warn me. Are we back? Back?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, it's becoming evident that that isn't going to work as far as doing this, which is a real shame. I'm very not upset. I'm just disappointed. I really am disappointed, because I really wanted to cover this. What I will do is I will email Jubilee and say, like, I understand you want to protect copyright, but I believe we have a right to critique and comment. How much did we do? So we did less than 15 minutes over 2 hours. Over 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Less than so we're up to the 14-minute mark across 2 hours. So I don't know how you could argue that we're taking their content just for their content. Like, that's wild. Jubilee won't do anything to you? Well, they might put me on a whitelist if I request it, you know.
I don't even know if they have the ability to, like, it's clearly not their bots that are doing it, so I don't know if they can turn them on or off.
No, I looked at the message, and apparently you can request that they put you on a whitelist kind of thing. Like, I actually quickly read the exempt channels. So you have an allow list, apparently, and you can add them to the allow list on YouTube. So maybe that's me not knowing enough about YouTube to, you know, ask that up front. But I don't know why you should have to ask up front for, you know, publicly available arguments and discourse to be reviewed. You know, that seems strange to me, because really you're looking at a transformation of the content. That's really what you're after. And to say that this is the original content is nonsense. You know, like, that's nonsense. People aren't watching it for the original content. They're watching it for our review of it. And under fair use laws, review, commentary, and criticism is absolutely under fair use. So I'm not 100% sure, you know, why you think that you're behaving within the law.
It's the tariffs.
They're tariffing my show. That's fantastic.
Yes,
25% of this you won't see. It goes to the American government at the cost of the consumer. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep.
All those blacked out portions, that's exclusively for the White House. Only Elon gets to watch that.
Yes, I'm so sorry, everybody. I did not expect this at all. It's kind of like, I don't know. Look, people hassle modern day debate. Totally understand. People have their opinions on it. But one thing is that they make all of their content common. It's common content, basically. It's basically you can use it for whatever. And I respect the hell out of that. Like, you know, use their content, they don't care. That's really good. Because, of course, like if you're putting debates out there like Jubilee is, why wouldn't you like people to comment and critique on it, put forward their own arguments? It just seems like a attack on public discourse.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, arguably, everything Jubilee does is an attack on public discourse. Like, posing flat earthers and scientists as being equal somehow. Like, holy shit, we need to find the middle ground between the status quo as an extreme position and kill everyone who isn't a white evangelical. They're about even. We need to find a middle ground. That's where it's...
Yeah, but, I really believe that the people that go on there with stupid arguments do look stupid. I mean, Knowles being bodied by just average people was pretty hilarious. That was hilarious.
There's a reason that he doesn't join his friends from Daily Wire in debating college students.
Right. Like, it was actually quite funny. But, yeah, I do apologize, everybody. That's, I will try to do something about it. It may be beyond my control, but what I can do, I will do. I promise you that. Yeah, that sucks. I was really looking forward to this one. And we obviously had a lot to say because we only got through a tiny portion of it. Maybe we should switch back to your end, Ember, because you seem to know what you're doing a lot more than me.
That's bold.
Hang on. I'll put you first. There we go. You're first now. You're in charge now. So we'll switch back to Ember's channel. And again, I really apologize. It didn't even cross my mind that this could be taken down for copyright when you do 15 minutes of it over 2 hours. So who knew? Not me. Maybe I should have. Maybe that's something I should know about. I don't know.
It gets everybody by surprise the first time.
Well, it's happened to me once before it happened to me, but I haven't seen it since then. Like it's been absolutely, I have not seen it since then. And I'd gotten way more through the clip kind of thing before it happened. So I'm kind of taken aback at this that, maybe they should take into account the amount of time that's passed in the stream from the start of using the material. Like if it's been an hour and you've used half an hour or something of the material, then obviously you're transforming the content. How could it not be transformed unless you're just putting in ad breaks or something? Who knows?
We need more ads. More capitalism is the solution.
Maybe just don't count the ad breaks. I don't know, right? I'm a problem solver, people. I'm a problem solver. It says, Maya says it will release the frozen parts as soon as you end the show. Okay, but that's not useful for the people watching.
Hello, future people. We hope you enjoyed the blacked out parts where we just kind of stared at the screen and waited for the blackout to go away.
Ancha says, because you're pure-hearted, Mug, you don't think in terms of Neferi or Neferi.
No,
maybe it's Neferi.
Neferi.
I think they were a pharaoh back in the Second Dynasty.
Yeah.
Pharaoh Neferi, yeah. I gotcha, Jack.
No, the third child of Nefertiti, and parent of the Nephilim.
Yeah, Maya, I get what you mean now. Like, totally, absolutely. No, you're spot on. They're definitely worse than anything I've seen, which is kind of weird and odd. But that's okay. I'll do what I can. If nothing occurs of it, well, I just won't review their videos. And that kind of sucks for us as well as them, like people not reviewing your stuff. It's a weird format, but it's good, I think it's good. I think that, it really shows who doesn't know what they're talking about when they can't take on that many people kind of thing. Like if you can't take on 20 different people, then you're not proficient in the subject that you're talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of like a crucible sort of thing. Like it doesn't prove that you're right or wrong, but it gives lots of opportunities for different angles of attack to really test your mettle when it comes to the subject matter. And you even control the claims. You're the one setting the chessboard.
Right.
And everybody else has to play on your terms. And if you can't stand up with all of that on your side,
right.
I mean, yeah, there's 20 people, whatever, but because of the way it's set up, they have to come at you one at a time. So it's always one-on-one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, yeah. No, I'm sorry, peeps. I'm not sure what to do with myself now. I feel like doing a song or a dance or something to make
we
up
could
for
chair
it.
dance. Let's get Patty and Nancy back on. They love to chair dance.
Oh, they'd love to chair dance? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Now I just feel like a dancing monkey and a ball dancing monkey.
Technically, that's true.
Technically, that is true.
Law of monophily, yeah.
Yeah, technically that is. I am literally a monkey, a simian that is dancing. So yeah, absolutely. Yes, this happens. I guess we have to accept it. We will try to do what we can, and beyond that, we accept it. So I'm so sorry it's a short one. It's only 2 hours. I feel very
short.
Ember, short and long are relative. It's true. They are completely relative, and relative to our other ones, this is incredibly short. It is.
No, that's true. I remember early on when we were doing like 5 and 6 hour ones, and we did a 4 hour, and we were like, "Well, sorry about the short stream, but we reached the end of the debate, so I guess we're done for this week."
Sure. What have you got coming up, Ems? What are you working on? If you do know at all, what's on the agenda for you?
Well, I'm still, aside from that constant churning of news content for transpositions and Skeptic Haven and all of that stuff. My own channel, of course, we're going to have a debate. We'll be back over there next weekend. Fresh, new, old classic debate. I stole a list from Cam over at Capturing Christianity of the top 10 debates that every philosophy interlocutor person must study. And I found the debate. I had to substitute out a few because Mark and I have already covered some of those that are on the list. And I found others that can fill. So I have debates ready to go, and they're according to Cam, really important debates. So
okay,
we'll pick one of those. It'll be a fun time. And I am still, I know it's been a month, but I actually am working on new regular content. I probably would be better off just doing more random live streams because I keep dumping hours into producing this video that's going to end up being 8 freaking minutes long. And it'll get maybe 50 views. But
yeah, I prefer live streams just for the engagement with people. I feel more connected to people. I feel part of the community. I feel much better. But I'm
same.
I go through these periods of absolutely I will meet someone or see somebody do a video or something, and I really want to interview them and pick their brain. So that's what I'm really into at the moment. And I go through fluctuations of feeling like I really want to do this and really don't, interviewing. I don't know. I go through, periods of really wanting to do recorded content. Then I sit down and start editing and I'm like, this sucks and I'm terrible at this. And then I, rethink it. And I don't know. I'm all over the place at the moment. So as you can probably tell. But,
well, yeah, that's why a lot of the bigger channels have dedicated editors so that you can just sit down, record, and then the editor does the thing that they're good at. So you can do the thing that you're good at. But being as tiny as we are, we have to do what we can. I don't know. There's so much cool shit you can do with recorded content.
Idea. Tiny is relative, okay?
It's true.
This short is bad, and come on. We're huge compared to some people. Let's. I really feel like I'm talking about my penis right now, quite frankly. I'm not tiny. I'm huge compared to some people.
Cancelled for policy violations.
Okay, well, stack on another reason for me to be cancelled. Okay, just let's just why go for one reason in a stream? Let's just rack them up. Let's get all the reasons.
Yeah, let's find a list and we'll just go right down,
exactly.
check all the boxes. It'll be fun. But yeah, I've been toying with that idea too of just finishing up the videos that I have cooking because I promised I would finish them, and I always do my best to keep my promises. But going forward, I don't know. Given the limits of time constraints in my life, the circumstances and things, I may just try to like increase my live stream output. I know the community would appreciate that better, whether it's good for me views wise or not.
Yes.
And maybe I'll fire up some of the other channels that have been lying dormant. Like, it's really been itching my brain to get back on the NocoCon channel and do like nerdy pop culture related stuff. I blame Chris Mallard for this also with his Sci-Fi Saturday thing. I'm like, it really got that fire for, I want to do nerdy shit. And I have a channel specifically for that. I should do the thing, you know?
Has Chris ever had you on, like maybe for a Sci-Fi Saturday? Maybe float that idea. You know, I know you absolutely love sci-fi, especially sci-fi books. And maybe if he's like, I think the only reason he got me on was that Farscape was Australian and I was the only Australian he could, you know, grab for that one kind of thing. So
yeah, you were there in the community.
Well, yeah, me being on the other side of the planet actually worked out for me for once. You know, like this is the thing. But yeah, no, that was an amazing time. That was awesome. Like some of the shows we were talking about, I haven't seen for ages, you know, like absolutely ages. And I suddenly felt the inclination to go watch like Babylon 5 and, you know, Farscape. I occasionally will watch the live stream on YouTube. It's cool, you know, like it just plays in a rotation. Just like, why not?
It's neat.
Yeah. Anyway, what have I got coming up? I've actually got to think about this. What have I got coming up? I'm supposed to be debating on MDD soon with Andrew Wilson. It's changed date like 5 times. I'm not even joking. It has changed date that many times.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be March 15th because we made that joke about the Ides of March.
Correct, yes. And it changed, and then it changed again, and it changed again, and it changed again. It's wild. It's just wild. But it may be next Sunday now. So my Sunday being when usually we do the debate dissection. So I may have to do that. I'll confirm it. And, you know, it's getting beyond a joke how many times the date's changed. I'm not even joking. It's changed like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, as our standing rule, if there's a debate that conflicts with a debate review, the actual debate takes precedence. If that happens, and you know, it's my turn, so we wouldn't be live streaming the thing, then I'll just like when we postponed last week, I'll do something else in the time slot.
Mage does nerdy shit, so does One Ring. Maybe collab with them. I don't know who that is, Archer. You've got to realize that you know so much more about our sort of, you know, extraneous community around us than I do. I absolutely have no idea who that is. I'm sorry. Maybe drop it if you've got some suggestions. Drop it in the suggestion box of my Discord. Join link is in the description.
Mark has a Discord. We're plugging shit this time.
Apparently so. Apparently I've been taken down, so I've got to plug my crap. Apparently that's how I react. You know, sue me. Yeah, so I do have a Discord. I really should be on there more. So let's not do shoulds and, you know, these obligations. I want to be on there more. You know, that would be nice. But you know, if you have suggestions, you can just go in there and drop it. I've got a suggestion box. Just drop it in there. I'm more than happy to check it out. But yeah, apart from that debate, I don't have a ton going on. I do have somebody who challenged me to another debate. I'm trying to work out a channel to do that on and a moderator. So I've got to get on that very soon. I'm not sure if there's a conflict with MDD debate, which will obviously have priority. And next week, so next week for you guys, I do have my member stream. So yeah, that's been fun. And hopefully I can see all the members there. Oh, thank you, Jer. Thank you very much. But yeah, so I guess I'll leave it there. Don't forget to be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, be kind to streamers who are just trying to do fair use. on your content. And
Send the
do
bot army.
critique and review. Yeah, I'm talking to the bot. You know who you are. Please be kind to them, because this discourse and discussion is always a good thing. And discourse about your platform is not going to take away any views from your platform. It's not. Like, people don't go here to see a Jubilee surrounded thing. They come to see us talk about stuff. So I think it's really important. Anyway, take care. Have a good day or evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
This old switchboard could talk. Wow. Your ears would sizzle. 1880. We take Alexander Graham Bell's invention for granted today. Perhaps we should. But isn't it incredible that millions and millions of people can talk simultaneously to practically any spot on Earth